Tensions continue to intensify between the United States, Russia, and China, with fears that this could result in a war. Authorities in the United States say that for the first time, the US is facing two major nuclear powers, and they fear that US power is declining. The chairman of the US Joint Chiefs of Staff Army, General Mark Milley, said last week that the US must remain the most powerful nation on earth if peace is to continue between the three nations. But he said while both China and Russia have the means to threaten US national security, war is neither inevitable nor imminent. Well, let's discuss all of this and its implications on South Africa with Professor Siphamandla Zondi from the University of Johannesburg. Prof, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. Welcome to today. I saw a story last week as well about the US Congress approving the biggest defense budget in the longest time, if not in its modern history, because of these statements that have been made by the US military to counter what they fear is the declining power they have in the world.
Oh, yes, we have seen that. We have seen that the United States has been, for a long time now, by the way, for the past 2 decades, have been worried about the rise of other centers of the world that are not subservient to the United States. The United States has conceived of the world where anything that rises, like the EU has been rising over a period of time, Japan has been rising over a period of time, Australia has been rising over a period of time. For as long as they want to be subservient to the United States, it doesn't see that as a threat. But any that is independent and they want to chart their own direction, they see that immediately as a threat to their national interest, because they see their national interest as the whole world. They see themselves as the world policeman. They see themselves as kind of like the power that underwrites the whole world system right now. And they have been talking up this competition. They've tried it on the economic side, impose sanctions and limitations on Chinese companies and all that, trying to manage that and try to dissuade other countries from signing up to Chinese technology and all of that. Failing to compete economically, now the United States go to their trusted terrain, which is to further expand its military power. It already has the biggest military power in the world. No one matches them in terms of military power. But in terms of ability to win wars, that's a different story. The United States has not won any war in decades now. It doesn't win war, but it has the biggest capacity to fight.
Yeah, $842 billion proposed defense budget discussed by Congress last week. And as you point out, they want to shore up their defense capability, especially in and around Asia, because that's where China is located. The possibility, the military there in America saying, no, the war is neither inevitable nor imminent. But why want to spend so much money if you're not preparing for war? Or am I being melodramatic?
Yeah, you just said something very interesting. They are saying they want to prop up their defense, not in America, their defense in Asia, which is completely the opposite of where they are. It's almost like me staying in Alexandria and I say I want to build my defense in Atchesville in Pretoria. Only imperial powers understand that logic. How do you, in the Western Hemisphere, want to prepare your defense in the Eastern Hemisphere? Over 10,000 kilometers from where you are. What defense is there? It can only be offense. It can only be what they've been trying to do, which is to contain China, which is to signal to China that we are surrounding you, which is to encircle China, put bases right around China, and yet say China is someone wrong. It's almost like putting all my equipment, my bombs around your house and say you are aggressive. But it's me who puts my armor around you because I fear that you are becoming strong or you are becoming assertive and all of that. So they will continue to do this for 2 reasons. Showing off macho power like that of a bouncer in a nightclub. It's a very much part of the United Nations cycle. Secondly, every president in the United States must be seen to be ready to start a war somewhere and be ready to emasculate the United States as a form of power. But it does appeal to the domestic audience in the United States. It does help them win votes next year and other things, to be seen to be arming, even if they're not going to be going to any war, but they must just arm themselves to death.
And South Africa's position in all of this is interesting. I mean, looking at the decline of the US's influence around the world. I mean, several countries now deciding not to trade using the American dollar. There are all kinds of concerns of what the impact will be or implications for America's economy, which has also been struggling recently. But South Africa is also, it's got good relations. I mean, just late last year, our president, Matamela Ramaphosa, visited Washington and had talks there. And then we had Anthony Blinken on our shores late last year. And currently, we are seeing that there's more kind of approach to Africa, with Kamala Harris having been in 3 African countries recently. South Africa is also a member of Brics, Professor. And in Brics, you've got the likes of Russia and China, which America is not happy with. How does South Africa navigate this complex picture?
This is the complex picture that Mandela found. Remember when Mandela said to the United States, don't choose our enemies, don't choose our friends. We'll have our enemies and not our friends. Your enemies are not our enemies. Allow us to just have enemies of our own. But the United States was trying to say, oh, no, you are a democracy, and we are like the father of democracy, and you must follow us. Whoever we think is evil, consider them as evil. And Mandela insisted at that point that we must be independent, must look at what is of interest to us. And definitely of interest to us is to relate with both the East and the West. It's to relate with both the North and the South. It is to relate with all sides and try and make the most of economic relations and focus on economy, focus on development, focus on investment, on trade, and all of those things.
Yeah, Prof, just to come in that as we conclude, then, do you think Vladimir Putin should come to South Africa in August to attend the BRICS summit?
I think South Africa has 2 options. One option is to convert the summit into a virtual summit, and then avert the situation where Putin lands in South Africa and South Africa is compelled to arrest him. The second option is the option they used with al-Bashir, which was to ignore the arrest warrant on the basis that Russia is not a member of the ICC and that this is part of the unfair pattern that is taking place, and then take the flak for it, but then that will die down after a time. It has those options that it can play, but it seems to me the most advisable one is to appeal or convert the meeting into a virtual meeting, or shift the meeting from South Africa to another country that is unlikely to arrest Putin.
Okay, thank you very much for your time and insight this afternoon on Today here on eNCA, Professor Siphamandla Zondi.